Arjun, you're from upGrad. Can you tell me what kind of students should prefer an online MBA versus classroom MBA? Arjun, you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a question which keeps coming to us. The basic premise behind an online MBA is flexibility. So let me try to explain it a bit from the context of India. In India, majority of us starts our work or job immediately after your graduation. So moment the BTech, BSc, PCom is done, you start working. Every year you work, you are successful, your salary keeps on increasing. But always when you're looking at a career, this doing a master's or doing an MBA is something which accelerates your career. Now, in the current context of India, if you are taking an MBA after a couple of years of work experience, you will have to take a break and then go back to college. Now, for someone who is used to earning a good amount of money every month, taking that break becomes a question mark. And a lot of times what happens is that you end up deciding not to do an MBA, which actually would have helped you accelerate your career more. The idea of online MBA or executive MBA or working professional MBA originated to solve a problem of this manner. So this fundamentally is an excellent choice when you are someone who wants to continue your job and do an MBA alongside. So what I would recommend is that an online MBA would be preferable for someone who has 2 to 3 years of work experience. It's clear that they want to move into a management field in their career from the execution, which could be in finance or tech or whatever it is, and want to move into the people management and management side of it, and wants to do it without taking a break in your career. So that is the best kind of a profile which suits.
Okay. Yeah. So what kind of student should prefer an Indian online MBA versus international online MBA, or what are the differences between the two, and which one do you suggest must be taken up?
Sure. Indian versus international. So first of all, if you look at the history of online MBAs in India, Indian MBAs doing online is a very recent phenomenon, which started happening in a big way after the new education policy. Before that, you had a lot of international universities who were doing their MBA globally, and you could also be part of it. So if you are asking me the difference between both in terms of curriculum, in terms of exposure, so on and so forth, I would say that a lot is different based on the cohort you sit in. See, MBA is a very experiential program. Along with whatever you learn from your teachers, from the curriculum, so on and so forth, you do an equal amount of learning from your peers also. So who are your peers plays a very important role in the outcome you end up getting at the end of it. Good part about international MBA is that most of these has got cohort of international learners, which means that in your same class, while you're taking MBA, you may have an American, you may have some Europeans, you may have some people from Africa, so on and so forth. And in your 1 or 2 years of experience while doing this MBA, you are constantly learning things from them. As a result of which, this is the cohort varies a lot. While in Indian MBA, which today is a UGC approved MBA, which can be done by multiple universities, the cohort is majorly Indian students. So that is one big change. The second difference is that all the international MBAs which happens doesn't come with a UGC or an AICT approval. These are, UGC and AICT are bodies, accreditation bodies, which approves universities in India. They are, there's nothing they do with international universities. And hence, none of these international MBAs comes these accreditation. And that is where international accrediting bodies like ICWIS, ACCSSB, AMBA and all plays a role. These are international level MBA accreditation agencies, and most of the top universities in the world has this accreditation. So if you are someone who is looking at a UGC approved or an AICT approved MBA and want to use that to find better job in India, I mean, although most of the companies, private sector doesn't even care about these things, but yeah, government sector still, these things are required, then an Indian MBA works well for you. While you're looking at MBA more from an exposure perspective, more from a global cohort perspective, more from learning about multiple cultures and improving your skill set overall, making yourself a person who is well balanced and knows about multiple cultures, multiple people, so on and so forth, an international will be much more suited for you. I will also make this point that international MBAs, because we are talking about a lot of universities in US and Europe, charges you in dollars, and and with the current price conversion of dollar to rupees can be expensive if the tech platform you're doing that through has not done a good job in negotiation. So this is how you should decide. Finally, in one line, if I want to answer it, what MBA, which university, which whether it's international or Indian, you choose will completely depend on what do you want to do with this at the end of it. What is the outcome you are looking at? If you are clear that I want to change my job and go into private sector, and these are the companies which I'm targeting, first thing you need to check is, are these companies going to give any weightage to the MBA from that particular university? And that's what your research would be all about.
For the benefit of the students, can you give them a 5 checklist thing when they're choosing an international MBA recommend?
Perfect. So let me explain a bit about the checklist you should be looking at if when you are choosing an international MBA. Again, this is explaining to you from my perspective, from my experience. Don't take it as 100% perfect things. Things can vary depending on what you're looking at. Number one thing which you should check is the credibility of the university which is offering it. One way you can do it is look at the course and see how the accreditation is. The top 3 agencies world over which accredits an MBA are EQUIS, ASCSB, and AMBA. There are very few universities who has got 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 3. So even if you have 1 out of these 3, it means that it's a credible institute to a large extent. Number 2, what you do is see if this particular university is doing a offline course, and what is the ranking of that offline course in their local ranking. Now, local ranking could be what is the ranking of that university in that particular country which they are located in. For instance, upGrad does an MBA with Liverpool John Moore University, which the MBA is called as an LBS MBA. The university in UK is ranked in top 100. This gives you a lot of understanding on what the credibility is. You can also check the international ranking of the university, which is covered through this ranking called as the QS ranking. QS ranking is widely adopted by most of the universities. Number 3, what you should ideally look at is whether this university and its program is approved and accredited by the local educational regulator. Now, that's a very important thing because it gives you an understanding if the university is a valid provider of educational qualifications. Number 4 is find alumni. And I mean, it is definitely possible in this age of LinkedIn to find someone who has either done an online or an offline course from that university, have a conversation with them, understand how the experience has been, what is their feedback, so on and so forth. And number 5, most important, are job opportunities under that. If you are someone who is looking at a placement post doing this online MBA, please understand that this whole campus placement is not something which is very common in international universities. Hence, they operate on a mechanism called as job fairs. You can easily find information about job fairs on the offline courses. And in case of online courses, mostly the edtech partner who have tied up with this university provides you opportunities. It will be good if you can find more details about it and see how many people actually look for placements and get placed. So in my view, these are the 5 things you should check when you are doing a very outcome-oriented online MBA along with your job.
Brilliant. Needed. So can you explain to the student the eligibility to do an online MBA?
So first of all, eligibility to do an online MBA varies depending on which university you are enrolling with. For instance, most of the online MBA in India doesn't have any requirement of work experience. All they say is that you should be a graduate with 50% marks in your graduation. While most of the international universities ask for 2 years of work experience, at least 2 years of work experience before enrolling into their MBA program. That's very cultural. In most of the Western universities, an MBA is not taken by anyone immediately after graduation. People go, work, understand the reason why you should be taking an MBA, and then go back to campus. And that is why the condition is there. In my view, ideally, you should be taking an MBA after a few years of work experience. Otherwise, you will not appreciate the reason why you'll be doing it. You will go, because MBA has a curriculum which is very experiential in nature. You will learn most of the details through case studies. Until unless you know that such problems will be faced when you are a business person and in corporate, you'll not even appreciate the importance of something like this. So that's how it is put. What is happening today is that more and more MBA admissions are becoming specialized. So because for working professionals who go for MBA are clear that they want to do finance or HR or IT, they try to do an MBA with that particular specialization. So now what universities are doing is that they'll say that, okay, if you are doing MBA in finance, you should ideally have at least 1 year of experience in finance portfolio or in finance profile before applying for it. Or if you apply with a finance experience, it greatly increases the chance of getting admission. One example I can give you is the Deakin University MBA, which we run on our platform. So that's an MBA in leadership program. And they don't give you enrollment until unless you have got 2 years of work experience. And it's not simple, right? When you are enrolling for it, you are supposed to give a CV with your complete work experience along with referrals for each and every job you have done. The university admission team literally calls every one of your referral and understands whether you actually contributed in that job role. So universities are also now clear that we want people who can really bring in the experience from their work experience and hence improve the quality of the class.
But how far does the credibility of an online MBA go that it actually improves the prospects of the student?
Yeah. So one aspect which we are seeing now, especially after COVID, is that there isn't a very differential way in which an organization or a corporate treats an online and an offline student. Basically, it's not even told to them that is the truth, because the certificate you get even after an online MBA, whether it's Indian or international, is exactly the same certificate you get on campus today. So at the stages of selection, and I'm just talking to you very focused on the selection process, the company gives a shortlist based on what the student has done during the MBA. That is, in the CV, you would have written about the projects, the credibility, the institution, so on and so forth. So one step, thanks to the way the world has become online, you get treated in the same way as the offline version of the institute, of that same institute, and the institute at the same level. But today, the hiring or the prospects of a job is not just based on degree anymore. There are processes of hiring where the student's skill set is intensively tested. Through it could be through various assessment, it could be through long interviews, so on and so forth. So a student finally is selected based on the skill set the student builds through the MBA program. Because there's an expectation, right? You're from Deakin University, you're from, let's say, Chandigarh University, or you're from Amity University or LBS. Expectation is that, okay, after you've done MBA, there is a structured thought process you have. You can understand how an account statement will look like. You can read a balance sheet of the company. You can speak about marketing basics, so on and so forth. This is tested finally. So from the perspective of an online MBA giving you an added advantage, what I can say is, at least in India today, typically the private sector job, you are treated like a person who has an MBA from a above average institute. When you have an international MBA, obviously it is seen as, okay, this guy seems to be a differentiated profile in the group because he has an international MBA while a lot of other people has a regular MBA. But final selection, I mean, it gives you that opportunity in an interview, but final selection is completely dependent on what you have made of it in the years of your MBA program.
The next thing is, Arjun, for a student who does online MBA, are there support services the way, for example, you have an alumni relationship, networking, the peer group, all those things are there, right? So how do these international MBA international B schools deal with online MBA students in terms of the support services and the cohort that is created, the network that comes out of it, the peer learning, or even for that matter, uh, you know, uh, getting together and meetups and those kind of things?
Yeah. So that's a brilliant question, and that's one question which is very important in MBA, because MBA is just not about listening to those lectures and passing some examination, right? It is the network you build. It is the social interaction which happens with your peer, and if these elements are not provided, then your MBA education is incomplete, and that is where most of the edtech players comes in. Now, if I could use the word features, like the alumni relationship, like the immersion programs, like the placement cell, the support services, the career services, all these things for these international MBAs are taken care or run by the edtech partners in the respective geographies. These MBAs are, MBAs are run by us. So for the MBA programs which are on our platform, we take care of these services. Similarly, the other players like an Emeritus and Great Learning take care of the MBAs which are on their platform. And what we try to do, especially in the post-COVID world, is to give some offline interaction also with these students. It's not that it's an ask or it's a requirement which the students have come in with, or is it? It's not that it is necessary that we need to bring these these learners offline to give them the outcome they are looking at. But what we have realized is that meeting them, making them meet offline, and the social aspect of it brings in a lot of joy and a lot of relations building within the group. So we have been trying to do the same through multiple immersion programs, through multiple meetup in respective cities, and making them connect to their existing alumni from the same institute. So that's how we are taking care of that now.
How is the quality of faculty and the credibility of that faculty?
So first of all, faculty-student interaction is a very important component of the MBAs. But at the same time, what we have observed is that when a working professional takes an MBA, there is always an ask of giving up-to-date curriculum in various topics. Let me explain to you in a little better fashion. For instance, let's say I am doing a course in marketing. Now, most of the universities use the Harvard case studies, and you will see that most of these case studies were written in the 80s and 90s, and hence it's good to build business basics, but doesn't talk about the latest of it. So one of the things which is expected from an online MBA is, because it is a modern way of education, the expectation is that a lot of things which are taught will also be latest. Like I will do a case study on Flipkart rather than a Sears.com to make them understand what is e-commerce in the modern day world. Because of this, you will see that when we are doing an online MBA with international or Indian universities, we have created a layer of SMEs, what we call as subject matter experts, who do sessions along with the university professors. So for a student who is doing online MBA, they will interact with two kinds of people. One, the faculty from the universities, who are the same faculty you take offline. And second, the SMEs sourced by us, who will give them up-to-date and latest information on what is happening in a particular sector associated with that program. Now, as you all know, in MBAs, we all have a connect, or not only MBAs, in any college education, we all have a connect with top teachers. So they also, students also develop connect with these teachers. Now, what we have always tried to do is that we have tried to replicate these interactions with the teachers in an online world through a tool called as networking. So we have specific times when students and the teachers can come in small groups and interact and have a discussion, so on and so forth. But post COVID, we felt that this is also not enough. So what we have created is we have created opportunities to do this offline in two ways. Number one, we do immersions. So immersion is basically a 1 week opportunity for the students to travel to the campus, which is in UK, US, Australia, as a batch, and study offline in the location with the same teacher who have been taking classes online for them. Number one. For the SMEs, we do the same thing offline in India, wherein they travel in small groups to one of the cities, either Bangalore, Mumbai, where the SME is or SME travels, and do the same interaction with them. It's not that this is an essential part of MBA, but we have seen that this adds in a lot of intangible value to the course. People really love this. People really love the experience of interacting with the teacher they've been looking up to, and taking it out as an important an important experience in the entire program. So this is how we are trying to bridge it out to some extent, and trying to make the course as interesting and as outcome oriented like an offline program.
So doesn't doing an international MBA from online MBA from one of these institutions help you getting an easier access to work permit or visa and those kind of things? Because that's also one of the outcomes students are looking for.
It definitely is. But this is something which I keep coaching my team, that we don't want to give any misconception to anyone that by doing an online MBA, you will get a job. By doing an online MBA from, let's say, UK or US or Australia, you will get a job there. That's a completely different thing. A post-study work visa comes if you have spent a specific amount of time on campus in that particular country. So none of these programs comes with a visa or a post-visa guarantee. That's not there. And this is one thing which I'm very particular about, because in your push to sell, you will make a statement that you will get visa and all, but no, that doesn't happen. So let me be super clear on this. These international MBAs are going to give you a credential which is accepted, which is highly looked upon by institutions or organization corporate across the world, but it doesn't come with post-study work visa. At the same time, when you are going and applying for a visa, could be multiple reasons. So could be because you have got a job there, or you are applying for a job in that country. The fact that you have got an MBA from an institution in that country will definitely increase your chances. In fact, most of these countries are trying to push for more and more online programs from the universities in their country, and hence there is an informal understanding towards it. So we have multiple cases where people were able to procure a job through their own channels and get a higher chance because of these degrees. But again, reiterating, it doesn't come with an assured work visa or anything. That is a separate process.
Do you have any international MBA which is Triple Crown accredited? Would you name them?
So we don't have any Triple Crown accredited MBA now. Deakin University had it 2 years ago. During COVID, one of their accreditation expired. They have told me that next year they'll get it back. All the other MBA programs with us are either having 1 accreditation or 2 accreditation. So the most popular ones within these 3 are EQUIS and ACSSP. Okay. This is what most of them have it. As you rightly said, right, India has got very few institutions like an ISB and an IIM Lucknow, which has got Triple Crown, but it's picking up. My bet to my team is that within 5 years time, most of the IIMs will have triple crowd accreditation. And that seems to be the way world is moving.
Yeah. What else do you think that students should be looking for, Arjun, to in the sense that uh, do you think that the student I did get your first part when you said, a working professional who doesn't want to leave the job but want to do an MBA, want to grow in their career, mid-career professional should be doing an MBA, right? Anything else that you think an MBA benefit? So, for example, deal with any student, any working professional done his UG and is working anywhere. What is your advice for them of doing an MBA and not doing an MBA? Expand the market in that sense.
Sure. See, in my view, you should pick up MBA if you're genuinely interested in a management career. What I've also seen is a lot of people think that, okay, I'm stuck in my career, I don't like it, so let me go and do an MBA. That is the set of people who end up doing an MBA and don't really get the outcome they are looking at. So my advice will be, first of all, be clear. What do you want out of doing something like this? Do you want to move into the management way of, management careers? Are you looking at yourself as someone who will run a small business and hence MBA gives you flavors of little bit everything in business? Or is it just that you feel that you've gone through rote learning all your life and want to now have a structured thought process, which is one of the key outcomes of a good MBA program? So what I would, again, this personal recommendation will be, you should be, first of all, clear what you want to do. And then it becomes an obvious choice, online, offline, depending on what you are currently at and what do you want to do, whether you want to take a break, you want to go to campus, or you want to continue your job doing it along with so on and so forth. But fundamental thing is, MBA fundamentally is a course which, in my view, brings a lot more structure to your thought process, make you an individual which the corporate world over would want, because you are someone who can get things done. You are a quick learner, you are open to learning new things, you have a broader broader and more open thought process. So it brings in all the skill sets. Question is, are you someone who is looking at building all the skill set? And that's where your decision to do MBA should come from.
Brilliant. Any last comments on this, Arjun?
I think it's always great to talk to you, because not everyone would like to go into the details and talk about such abstract things, right? So it's always fantastic.
Thanks.
Yeah. So today, I just want to add one more thing, right? So there's always this question of post-COVID, whether online is now slowing down. My sense, my personal opinion is that COVID or not COVID, online and the flexibility it brings in to education, especially in higher education, is not something which can be forgotten in a country like India. We are talking about millions and millions of people who are first bothered about making a good living, ensuring that they make money to make the ends meet. This group of people forget about upskilling, because traditionally it requires you to take a break in your salary and go back to an institution. What for a country like India, online has brought in is an opportunity to learn while you earn and improve your profile, and in that manner go up in life. So maybe 20 years earlier, doing a bachelor's and an engineer would have taken you long. But in today's world, you have to continuously upskill yourself. And in my view, online is the only way to do it while you're working. And hence, this carries a very important, aspect in our modern day education. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for joining in here.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Bye-bye. Good night. Bye.